Hello everybody. Let's see if the live stream will work this time, because it did just crash a moment ago. So we'll give it a moment to see if it's going to keep going. Right, Demon Rebus here, and what am I doing? Well, as the title says, it's a spar guide on GT Sport for the DGT League. I'm going to do it slightly differently than normal. Basically, this is kind of like a two-part tutorial here. The first part is explaining what I've done in the past that allows me to learn spar with any car, and it allows me to learn it within one lap. Right? So it's kind of like a how to learn how to do spar, and the second part will actually be how I'm going to drive it in the Porsche. So what I need to explain initially is that, two things. One, the reason I'm doing this is I was asked by someone that was struggling to learn spar, so I thought I'd tell them how I do it. Now, what I've got is many years experience of driving lots of different cars around this track. My main benchmark being Formula 1 cars from a few years ago, but still F1 cars. So I drove around here so many times in F1 cars that I never really had to think about where I'd be braking or turning, because it just became natural. What happened when I moved into sort of racing more like on GT Sport and things like that, I would perhaps automatically try braking at the F1 points and not making the corners, or in some cars making the corners. So basically what I've done that allows me to jump in any car at any time and go round Spa is, when I drive round, initially I will brake at what I would call my F1 points, and they are specific points around the track. And when I hit the brakes, I'm going to know whether I can brake at that point and make the corner, or if I can't. Now, if I can't, it obviously means I need to brake earlier, but I can then work on judging it how early before my F1 braking point. So that's basically how I am able to take any car to Spa and get on with it pretty quickly. So even with Eau Rouge, I'm going to go into it flat out to see if it can do it. Now, not every car can, so I'm probably going to crash, but I'll find out just how bad it's going to be. Now, obviously, I wouldn't recommend doing that you don't do it in a race situation. You should already know, really. But when we do our random races and we're jumping into any cars, what I would do then is I would take it to another level, where I've had the experience of the F1 stuff, I've then had the experience of different types of GT cars and road cars, so I could jump into any car now and go, if it's a super tuned road car, then I'm probably going to have to brake 50 to 100 metres early. I know that, so I'm probably going to do that anyway. But the information I'm giving now is for people that are struggling to learn spar. And one of the reasons they may be struggling to learn spar is because they haven't got that benchmark sort of perfect braking points that I have from F1 racing. I'm not saying my braking points are perfect, but you don't really get much better than an F1 car. So what I'm going to show is, as I drive around, is I'm going to show those specific points that I use, so that whenever you bring any car to Spa, you can go, okay, I'll do what Dave said, I'll brake at that point, and I'm either going to make the corner or I'm not. If I make the corner, good. If I don't, then you have to register, right, I need to brake earlier at that one. Now, for the most part, around Spa, the points that I would brake for my F1 car base are specific markers, so a brake marker board, a curb, a mark on the road, or a mark next to the road, or a bridge. So there are specific points. There's a couple of corners, no name, which is a little bit tricky. There isn't really many markers there. That one comes from the same experience, F1 experience of position, speed, but doing the same things with the feet. It's when we're off the throttle and when we're turning in. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to drive around initially, not too quick and not too slow, just to point out these specific brake marker points. It's just if I try and do it at full speed and I'm braking at those points and I'm not making the corners, I'm not going to be really showing you anything yet. Right, never do this, Gary. Okay, so turn 1, my base brake marker point, 100 meters. When I get to 100 meters, I'm going to hit those brakes as hard as I can and see what happens, and I'm going to come off them as late as possible. But I want to be off the brakes before I turn in. But that'll let me know straight away, can I brake at the 100 meters or not, right? And that can actually help towards the rest of the track. So we'll find out at turn 1, can we do 100 meters or not in the car we're in. Okay, Eau Rouge. Most cars it's going to be flat out, some cars it's really not. What I would say though is, on this particular game, GT Sport, stay off the curb on the right hand side. If you get on it, the car's going to end up going wide off to the left. But if you can stay in this position, you'll find you have a lot more grip and can carry a lot more speed. Okay, the straight at the end of the Camel, this is the Camel straight. The start of the curb, right? Well, okay. The start of the curb is where I always brake. To be fair, in an F1 car, yeah, it is. It's still start of the curb. I was just checking the brake marker boards. So even though we know, like, turn 1's braking point is 100 meters, up here though we're going to be doing a much higher speed, but we're going to try braking at the start of the curb. That is a specific marker which is quite late, which will let us know can we make the corner or not. Bear in mind as well, folks, this is when you've got no car in front of you. So in a moment I will go round much quicker, try these braking points. This right-hander is still a slowing down zone. Now this left-hander is all about getting over to the left. There's not really a braking point here, because you don't really need to brake. This is the next one though. In an F1 car, you can brake at the start of the curb on the left. So I'm going to try that, but it is quite far downhill. But I'll try it. Chances are in most normal cars, road cars, sports cars, we're going to understeer wide braking at that point, but we need to find out. Okay, this is no name. This is all about going from this position over to this position, and when we get to the curb, off the throttle to turn it in, clipping the curb and being fully on the throttle. There isn't really a braking point there because you don't really need to brake. It's just a lift off and a turn in. Put on. This is a major one. In an F1 car, we approach this flat out, probably no brakes, a downshift, and we turn in. We'd probably be downshifting at around about the 50 meter marker board and turning in about where that green light is. Now, in normal cars like this Porsche or any other cars, I'm pretty much going to be hitting the brakes a bit at 50 meters, probably going down the one gear. So I'm doing the F1 type of thing, but at the 50 meters. So dab a brake, down a gear, turn it in, let's see what happens. We're either going to grip and go around the corner, or it's going to grip and turn in, and then we're going to run wide on the mid and exit. But we'll find out whether we need to slow it down more on the way in or turn in a little bit later. But trying those specific points. Also try turning in sort of at the end of the curve here, it helps. Now, a saying that I thought of last night was, when learning a track like Spa, the corners never change, but the braking points do. Okay, so that's a handy little thing to think about. Right, Start of the curb is where I'm going to try braking. That's my F1 braking point, and you'll see it's very late, it's 50 meters, but that's what I'm going to try. It may be a little late, but I'll know. I'll hit the brakes at 50 and I'll know if it's too late or not. And this is why I'm using that as a specific marker. I can brake at that point and then see, is it too late or not? And if it is too late, then I know got to brake a bit before that. Question then is how much before that, but that's what practice is about. Okay, the right-hander, we brake at the start of the curb. Any car, try it. Brake at the start of the curb and we slow down enough to get around this corner. We will find out if we can't stop or not fairly damn quickly. Right, this right-hander, Stavolo 2, don't need any brakes. Some cars you may need a little lift off. What I would say is don't turn in too soon for this corner, because you'll end up running towards the medical centre earlier than you really want to. Okay, as we make our way towards Blanchimont, normal F1 procedure would be flat out. So that's what I would try. Flat out. Can it do it? We'll soon find out if it can or if it can't. Now, when I do try it flat out, I am going to be logging, have I turned in at the right point? Have I turned in enough? So if I only just sort of don't make it, I'm already contemplating, okay, is it possible, but I just didn't quite get it right. So we will attack this corner absolutely flat out, and we'll see what happens. Now, there are markers I use for the turning points and stuff, but we'll get down to that on a hotter lap. Okay, now we head down to the final chicane. And again, I'm going to use my F1 braking point, which is 100 meters. Now, I know there's a load of shadows here. Don't use the shadows, they'll move. Unless you, okay, if you know that you're racing at a specific time and those shadows are going to be there, great. But bear in mind, they will move from one time to another. Okay, so I'm going to hit the brakes at the 100 meter marker board, and I'm going to hit them as hard as I fucking can and keep them on for as long as I can to get slowed down for this corner. And we will know instantly whether that is the right braking point or not. So basically, we are testing the failure of the car and the driver to learn the track, okay? To learn the braking points, because you can't learn, well, you can. It's hard to learn how to get around the track if you can't get your braking points right. So I have the experience to be able to tell you, try braking here first, and if it works, bang on. If it doesn't, that's what's going to teach you to brake a bit earlier, okay? But you can work it from those specific points in any car that you bring to Spa, okay? That is a very easy way of learning your braking points for this particular track, okay? Now, you may need to go back through the video and pause it and remind yourself of what the points are. That's fine, go ahead, do so. But it is a very useful technique, and you can use it at any track, to be honest. However, for example, the person that asked me about help learning this track, they don't have that base car to go from. Then now, if they get one, if they find a car that is absolutely phenomenal on this game, that they... I'm trying to think of a car. I mean, we do a lot of testing around DGT Seaside, so we know, like, good cars where they can brake and bad cars where they can't brake. And it doesn't take long to really work that out. But it's a process you can take to every track, as long as you've got that base marker point that you can try braking at initially. Right, now we're kind of going on to move on to part 1-B, which is actually putting that into effect into driving round. So in a moment I will do sort of how I'm actually going to drive Spa, or try to, but before that I need to actually do some laps to find out what the Porsche can do around here. So what I need to do is basically put into process what I've just been showing you. And that is so that I can learn the not learn the track, I know that, but I can learn what this car can and can't do around this track. Now, bear in mind, out of the pits, you'll be doing a different speed to having come round the first corner. Now I felt that wasn't going to make it flat out. I knew it wasn't going to make it flat out as soon as I turned in, so I lifted off. Okay, so we'll start the process straight away. We'll brake at the start of the curve. That's not bad. Okay, we'll brake at the start of the curve down here. Not bad, it's a little slippy, but it's not bad. Position, curve, off throttle, turn in, clip, power, go. Okay, dab a brake at 50. Fuck, I just tried to right foot brake. I've never done that. Why did I try right foot braking? I fucking pushed my left foot. Right, start of the curve. These braking points are working for me. Start of the curve. Oh, little slippery that one. Little lift. So far going around the track, my base braking points are perfect. Apart from one or two which is a little sketchy. Flat out. Right, 100 metres. This one's risky. Okay, so 100 metres didn't make it. Right. Handy to know. Right. I'm going to try it again. Because I'm going to try it a couple of times. Because it may be that the tyres aren't up to temperature. But 100 metres last corner at the moment, that didn't work. Right, 100 metres, turn 1. Okay, now what I will say is, I'm going to try Eau Rouge absolutely flat. But if you find that you can't do it flat and you're going to have to lift, do the lift early. But we can do it flat. Okay, so we're going to try start the curve. Bear in mind, we're going faster this time. That braking point's good. But yeah, we're going faster because we went through Eau Rouge flat out. And we hadn't just come out of the pits. Okay, let's brake at the start of the curve. Oh, it's not leaving any margin for error there. Okay, position at the curb. Position at the curb, off throttle, clip the apex, power on, and away we go. Okay, dab a brake with your left foot this time, Dave. Down one, turn in. Oh. Okay, that's doable. I'd probably say that's what I'm going to be going with, but I'll try and fine tune it. Brake at the start of the curb. Try not to hit the bollards. Brake at the start of the curb. Right, let's try this flat out. Easy. But if you turn in too soon, it won't do it flat out. Okay, let the tyres cool. Easy flat. Now for Blanchimont, the aim there is to take it flat while taking... Okay, 100 metres is too late for the final chicane. That's handy to know. Right, yeah, Blanchimont, the idea is, realise if you can take it flat out or not, and then keep taking it flat out, but try taking more steering off. So applying less steering actually. Okay. So we're going to stick with the process of learning where we can brake. So we're 100 metres. Well, yeah, I was going to say as well, if you're struggling to do Eau Rouge flat out, or you got cars in front of you, lift off at the bottom of the hill just after this curve on the left. So lift off here, turn in, then get back on the power. If you lift off at the bottom of the hill, you'll be stable up here. Right, we'll go for the braking at the start of the curb. Get ourselves over to the left. Okay, brake at the start of the curb. That's going to become a problem as the tyres wear. This is an interesting moment. I'll mention it more in a second. Mr. Cones. Okay, so, pull on. Grab a brake, down the gear, turn it in. When can we get on the throttle? Nice and early. Came off the steering too much though, and now I've run wide. Balls. Start the curb, hit the brakes. Ooh, working away from the apex. Interesting. Okay, so there's 3 corners at the moment that are quite interesting, where yes, I can brake there, but actually in the race I don't want to. And the reason being, it's going to hurt the tyres, so over the course of the race, it's going to get harder and harder to brake there. Tried less steering, didn't quite make it, had to do a little lift. Right. Now hopefully you'll have been able to see where I braked at the final corner that time. If not, I'll show you on the next lap. Well, not the next lap actually. Okay. I want to mention those 3 corners and then we'll go on to basically how I'm going to try driving this track, because I have now learned what I need to know regarding my braking points and pretty much speed through the corners. Okay, so everything that I can show you now you should be able to hopefully recreate, but then with practice of doing the same things again and again and keeping it on the road and being smooth and not out braking yourself, lap times can be improved, because what you'll find is you get your braking point right, your entry speed right, your exit speed then becomes much faster, and that's actually where the time is gained. It's on how fast you can exit the corner, not how fast you can go into it. Okay, I mentioned there was 3 corners where the braking points were a little bit sketchy. Okay, the first one is the right hand hairpin. We've got the camel straight, the little chicane, the downhill hairpin, right? Now I mentioned that we brake at the start of the curb in learning, and the car can do it, but every time I approached it and came to that corner, it got a little more sketchy and a little more sketchy, and that will just get worse and worse and worse. Partly because it's a downhill braking zone, partly because of tyre wear, and partly just because of that's the nature of the way things happen. So for that corner, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my braking point a little bit before that. Now I could, for example, do a lift and coast and then hit the brakes, or I could just hit the brakes earlier and then come off them earlier, which allows me to be more stable on the way in. Some people will mistake it for being a bit slow on the way into the corner and attempting overtakes. That's fine, your tyres will die before mine do. Okay, the second one is at the corner after Pouhon, the right left, where the braking point I've been using is 50-metre marker board. I think, yeah, start the curb, 50-metre marker board. It's just a fraction too late for consistency in this car. So what I'll do is I'll bring it forward and actually brake at the little bridge, the advertising bridge going over the road. So now I'm going to bring the braking points forward, forwards a little bit, and we'll see how we get on from there. And the other one was the final corner. No, sorry, not final corner. Stavolo 1, which is just before the corner we can see on the screen here. The first of the 2 last right-handers before Blanchimont. Where again I said I'll be braking at the start of the curb, but again as the wearers come on a little bit, it gets a little sketchy, so I'm going to look at braking just before it so I can be completely off the brakes and more stable through the corner. So effectively what I'm doing is I'm thinking, right, I can brake there and get round the corner for a couple of laps, but I've got 18 laps to do. So if I take a little bit off the braking zone, or add a little bit to the braking zone technically, if I brake a little bit earlier and look after those tyres a tiny little bit every lap, then I'll do 18 laps quick in those corners, rather than 2 or 3 laps quick in those corners and then 18 laps of pain. Well, 15 laps of pain. But anyway, right, let's go and try that and put that into process. Also, the final corner, I've been trying to brake at 100 meters. It didn't work. So I then picked another point, and what I went with was the shadow on the road. Now, I know I said don't use the shadows, but on this game, if you're practicing at the correct time, and it's the time the race is going to be, you'll be okay. But you can't take that shadow onto another time of day. It won't work. So what I would actually do at the final corner is I'd be looking to brake at 125 meters. That's the way I've done it. I tried 100, it ain't making. I'm going past by quite some margin. So there's no point trying to brake at 105 meters because I've gone way more than 5 meters past the corner. So I've gone for 125 meters, and it just so happens there's a shadow there. So I can try using that as my marker. Now I have 2 of them, in between the 150 and the 100 and the shadow. Okay, right. So now we've got an idea of our braking points. We don't need to move them, right? What we need to do is stick to them. Or, as I'm about to show, but I said don't need to move them. What you might find, let's say for example, if I get out at the front and I'm on my own and I'm under pressure, chances are I'm going to do a little more lifting and coasting into some corners like here. I might lift and coast a little bit. Now, you can do that at any point. It's good for the car, it's good for the tyres. It's not necessarily always good in a racing situation because people will think that you're a little slower if they're right next to you. It's also very good for fuel consumption as well. But we don't need to conserve fuel, we want to burn it. Like poo on, like we've just gone round. Now I've got the braking points sorted out, I'll be able to try different things like, is it better going down 1 gear or is it better going down 2 gears? Is it better to approach it in 4th gear or is it better to approach it in 5th gear? Now I don't have to worry about the braking points because we've already worked those out, but now we can focus on, right, the braking points right, we can get into the corner right, but which is faster and more stable? This particular run, I'll try and point out a few extra things as well. Okay, shadow. Now I don't know exactly yet which gear we're going to use through the final corners because we've not approached it at any kind of speed yet. As soon as I turned in, I could tell it wasn't gripping and going, so I knew I had to lift. Okay, so we're going to brake before the board, sorry, not the board, the curb. put myself off there, not being able to remember the word. Yeah, so we'll brake before the curb, but what we'll find now is we can brake less. Oh, I've got to be so careful running wide. Okay, I'm not happy with my exit line at the moment. Brake at the bridge. Much more stable. And brake just before the curb there. Again, we'll find we don't have to go full brake. So we can brake a touch earlier, brake a little less, and actually go through the corner faster. Okay, I want to point out my turn-in point for Blanchimont. 2 black marks, one there. Well, 3 black marks, sorry. There's 3 black marks, one's very early. And then there's one part way down that little bit of straight. And then one final black tire mark on the green Astro, which is what I use as a turn-in point. You'll see more on the next lap, hopefully. So, as I'm now actually sort of practicing in the Porsche around this track, we know the braking points, and so now it's all about, right, gears, how much steering angle, how aggressive can we be on corner exit, how much steering angle do we need to use with Eau Rouge, am I better staying in 5th gear here, or go into 6th? So we're going to brake before the curb. It's not loads before the curb, but a couple of meters, and it just allows us to save the tyre a little bit. Cones. I'm going to try going down 2 gears this time. Okay, that kind of works for turning. Okay, well if it's the 3rd gear that it's going to want, am I better approaching it in 5th or 4th? Brake at the bridge, let the car slow down, or a little bit out of shape there, so I'll be better going down to 2nd and then coming up to 3rd, brake before the curb. Can we do it flat out? Don't turn in too soon, that's going wide. Now I kept my foot in to prove that I knew it was going wide. So as soon as I turned in, I could tell, right, these black marks. Black mark 1, black mark 2, black mark 3. This is your turn-in point. So if you ever struggle with being able to go flat out around this corner, this black mark is your turn-in point. And you'll find if you approach this point stable, your steering will be a hell of a lot easier turning in at this point for this corner, and you can work on steering less and less and less. Okay, so we'll brake at the shadow. Okay, so I'm using 1st gear through the final chicane at the moment. Yeah, we can be very aggressive with the throttle there in 1st, so we'll probably stick with that. Now the final corner in turn 1 are corners where you want to get off that steering to be able to go aggressive on the throttle. Okay, we reached 158, I think it was in 5th. Similar. holding second gear there might be quicker. Don't feel too bad. Right, I'm going to stay in fourth and downshift once. Okay. If you struggle with Puon, do it like that. Approach in fourth. Little bit of brake at 50. Downshift once to third. Turn in at the end of the curb. And you'll find you made the corner much more consistently. Now admittedly in the race, in a car like this, stab below 2, which is where I went wide on the previous lap, more than likely going to do a little lift, courtesy lift there. Just to look after the tyres and make sure I don't run wide. Okay, so braking at the 100. I've actually started taking a bit of steering off, not steering as much around turn 1, and it feels grippier. Which means I'm not hurting them as much and they'll be grippier in Eau Rouge. Gone for a little short shift out to 6, see if it speeds up quicker, which it's not really making any difference. Hold second gear here this time. That works. It's a little bit unbalanced on the lift off the throttle. A little bit away from the apex there, but we're getting there. Okay, second on the way in. Up to third now, third on the way out, brake before the curb, turned in too soon. Okay, so we'll focus on the black marks. Now there are 3, but you're only really going to see 2 because of where we transition. So 1, 2. I know we do see all 3. So braking at the 100, trying to steer less. It's working. So my braking points on this run haven't changed. It's just what I'm doing with the gears, the steering angle, that are different. I think holding 5th is better, 160. If you're in slipstream, yeah, you'll want 6th, but missed the apex a bit. Now, down here where I say I'm braking before the curb, it literally is just eyeing the curbs, getting nearer the front of my car. Right, okay, I'll brake there a couple of meters before it. So I'm not going off a specific point other than I know I need to brake before the curb. I've been a bit slow through there. There's something I just spotted as well. I'll go through in a sec. same for this one, where I'm not braking loads before the curb. It's just make sure I'm braking before the curb. Before the curb disappears under my bonnet. Now, okay, it's going to be a bit different for different views, so okay, I'll see if I can do this. I don't use this view, so it'll be a bit odd for me, but are the markers the same? Well, but what I'd probably say is on this view, use the top of the rev gauge, the horizontal one, as if that was the front of your car. So when that gets to the 100, that's when you're on the brakes. So yeah, so imagine that your rev gauge is basically your front bumper. The horizontal one, not the circular one. A little bit wobbly there because I caught the inside curve. So we're going to brake at the start of the curve again when it's around about level with the rev gauge. Not a lot of tyre squeal there, and that's one key factor of knowing you're not damaging the tyres. However, don't be completely put off by tyre squeal. There's corners like poo on, you're gonna get it. And it's okay. So the points that I've been mentioning are exactly the same if you're on this view. Got a wide, had to do a little lift. Now if you do find that you're having to lift once you've started turning in there, then that's where you may be better off doing the courtesy lift. And by courtesy lift, I mean doing a little lift before you turn in. Okay, so just to show as well that it's the same on this view. But on this view, it is a case of when the front of your car gets alongside the points that I've been mentioning. So you probably find I'm actually braking a little bit earlier than anyone using this view can brake. So we'll be looking to start the curve. Okay, so it goes through poo on. Very nice, very easy actually, even can upshift. See, it's one of the reasons why I like this. I actually do like this view. If I wasn't using in-car view, this is the view I'd be using, because you can just see a bit more, the car feels more in control. Anyway, I said there's something I'd spotted I wanted to mention, and I do. And I'm going to do that now. And that is Puon's brake marker board. Right. chances are the brake marker boards down here could disappear during a race. Now, this is something that it's always worth bearing in mind when learning a track or practicing a track. So yeah, great, there's a brake marker board there, I'll use that, but what else is there? Because if that brake marker board is not there, what are you going to do? And that's where it can become very difficult. Now, I'm not saying that you should sit here and do what I'm doing right now, but I'm doing this as an example. So looking at this, we can go, right, okay, well, we'll know that the ambulance has got a solid 100 metre marker board on the other side of the fence. That ain't going anywhere. So we know the 100 metre marker board is always going to be there on the outside of the fence. So what we can do now is we can go, right, well, if that's 100 metres and 50's down there, right, well, the start of the curb's probably about 75 metres, but also it just so happens that on the metal railing on the right hand side it's like messy grey, and then the top row is light grey, and it seems to end next to the 50 metre marker board. Well, holy shit. Right, well, you know what, that's close enough to the 50 metre marker board that if the 50 metre marker board is no longer there, I can use that, because that ain't going to go anywhere. Now, when looking for these kind of things, you may find yourself not looking at where you're going. That's natural, until things get picked up in the peripheral vision. So, for example, many people think that this view is very restrictive. I don't find that it is. I find that it focuses me on what's in front, but also I can still use my peripherals. Okay, so if I stop here for a moment, right, if I'm actually looking while I'm driving at where my braking point is, right, I may not be able to go through the corner as quick. Now, this is a progression from part 1 and part 2. So what I want to try and do is actually look at the apex while in my peripheral vision see where I am in regards to the advertising board over the top, which is my braking point. So as I'm approaching the corner, I'm looking at the apex, but I'm also looking at the shadow and the board in my peripherals, right? Now, it's not easy to get used to doing that, but it is something that definitely helps to look as far down the road as you can. It's one of the reasons why we say but it's better to not have the racing line on, because otherwise all you're focusing on is that racing line right in front of you. You're not looking at what's down the road, and it's very easy to actually crash into people in that scenario. Right, okay. That's basically the guide done. I am going to add a little bonus feature, just so you know that I'm not talking out my arse, excuse me, with how I go about learning this track. Because obviously what's happened here is that we've jumped in a car, come to this track, and its brakes are bloody good, and you can pretty much brake at the F1 point. Well, what if you was in a different car? Well, let's find out, shall we? Let's see. Let's take that off. Okay, so let's go and find a car now that's under 500 brake. Yeah, okay. A lot of yank tanks. It's fine. I don't want a group car, like group 3s or 4s. Tell you what, I'm going to go with this Skyline. I'm going to put it up to about 500 brake horse. I'll take its weight down. I'll put racing tyres on it. Now, the reason I've picked this particular car is because it's 4-wheel drive, which should help me. So what this little bit of a bonus feature is I'm going to take this car and brake at those baseline F1 braking points that I use, right? Or basically I'll just call it my baseline braking points around this track. And we will find out straight away whether it can do it or not. It's got the same amount of power as the Porsche. It's a little heavier than the Porsche, which could help it in the braking. But it is a road car. So we're going to come out of the pits, crash in Eau Rouge, which means we won't be at speed at the end of the straight. Okay, I didn't crash, but it was all over the place. Okay, so we're going to brake at the start of the curb. Speed similar-ish, 160, a bit faster actually. It didn't make it. But this is what I'm on about. You bring any car to this track, brake at that point, you either make it or you don't. We haven't made it, and we didn't make it by a long fucking way. Now, in a normal situation, that's where I'd go, right, okay, knowledge learned there, I can take that to every other corner. But just for the benefit of the video, so we'll dab the brakes at 50, downshift once, and see what happens. Whoa. Yeah, not great. Okay, you brake at the start of the curb. Corner, look back. Okay, so we didn't miss it by loads, but we definitely missed it. Out of shape. Okay, so we didn't miss that corner, but it was horrible through it. So we would have to bring our braking points forward. Okay, doubt this will make Blanchimont flat, but we'll try it. Marker there. Yeah. Difference between race car and road car. Now, I'm not going speed here, but even though I'm not going full speed, we've not made the corner. Okay, so I'll do one more lap just to then show what I would do. I'm going to brake at 100 here because we've not done it yet in this car though. Not bad, but you don't get to a lot of speed into one anyway. Right, I don't think we're making Eau Rouge flat, so as I mentioned, if you're going to do a lift, do it here. Okay, we know 100 metres don't work, 150 metres I don't think will work, but let's try it. Just 150, that'll do it. Now through that chicane and the next left-hander, brakes at the curb, we're slowing down, but it's all over the place. Yeah, this corner is still about position. So it's getting to the curb, Now, I know it's not very helpful if you get into the curb in the wrong place. Okay, we'll brake at the bridge. It was better, but we'd still need to brake a touch earlier. Brake before the curb, and it was more stable. Right, now we know Blanchimont's not flat out. Do we need to brake? I don't know actually. But what we can do is we can lift off. At the first marker, let it roll round the corner and see if it can make it. We're for 125, it didn't make it. But this goes to show exactly how I use that process that I showed earlier on. Okay. So yeah, so the process of using a specific marker as a base brake marker point for any car at this track, it will help you learn spar faster, because you instantly know, can't brake there, got to brake more, got to brake earlier, couple of corners like turn 1, it's still the 100-meter marker board, but that's because you're not going that fast anyway, so you're kind of safe. End of the Camel Straight, completely different matter. Per 1, completely different matter. Both Stavolos are very different. So it just helps with those, with consistency, to know brake before that curb, every lap, brake before that curb. Because you know if you brake at that curb, you're going past it. So there we go. Right, my throat is killing me now, so I'm going to disappear. Hope this has been helpful to anybody that may need it. If you're after more tips, yeah, good luck. Right, have a good one, everybody. I shall catch you all later.